gotta make the change. I literally see the difference between the two of them, which is crazy how trauma in the body keeps a score and the body remembers. So now the purpose and the mission of Intentional Dad in the Conscious Research Institute is to define fatherhood while raising consciousness one father at a time. And a dad is emotionally invested into his children. So what I've thrown myself into and just understanding is that our kids' future is dependent on the emotional intelligence of their fathers.
Hello again, it's Dr. G, internal medicine physician in Hollywood, Florida. And this is another edition of Healthy Exchanges with Dr. G, primary medicine doctor, and I'm also a lifestyle modification coach and a patient educator. I am welcoming you to a very special edition of Health Exchanges with Dr. G with a very special person, a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, and a fraternity brother who works in a very special space that's not well described, not very much talked about, but it's very well needed. My friend, John Castro, is going to join us today. And John is the Research and Development Director of Conscience, and he is also the mastermind behind a very special program called iDad, Intentional Dad. John, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dr.
You're welcome,
G.
brother. You're welcome.
My doctor. You're my friend and my doctor. I trust you with my life, literally.
Wow, that's a lot, man. That's a lot, but I received that, and I'm honored. I'm honored. I'm always honored. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Always a pleasure to see you. Always a pleasure to see your smile and to know exactly what you do and what you are called to do. And I'm happy that we finally got you on the podcast to talk to the world and bring you out to the world and show the world what you have to offer, which is a hell of a lot. So tell the world, why are we sitting here right now? What happened? How did we get to this point here?
You asked me to come?
I asked you to come. And you came, right? You came by as a good friend,
Yeah.
What I mean to say is, how did we come to this space? How did you come to be wearing that shirt?
The short answer is I didn't have the tools to show it for my kids or my wife. And when I realized I didn't have the tools, I had two decisions to make. Do I want to continue to be blind and dumb? Or do I want to take responsibility and do something about it? I took the latter, right? And it really started with my oldest son, Joaquin. He was 5 years ago. And I was mad. He did something. I don't even remember what he did. And I was gonna hit him, right? I hit him just like my dad hit me. My dad used to rock me out the frame if I did some wild shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I grabbed him, and my wife was like, put a hand on my shoulder and said, "You're only hitting him because he's little." And I instantly remembered 14 in the hallway, in the washer and dryer room, my dad kicking me, and I grabbed his leg and I swept him and threw him into the washer and dryer and yelling at him, like, "You're never gonna hit me again." And my mom screaming, and I'm just like, "You're never gonna hit me again." And I instantly remembered, fuck, I'm doing the same thing. I'm not breaking any cycles here. Like, what am I doing?
Right.
And that's when I realized, like, what am I doing? And it wasn't even for him. It was my grandkids. He's gonna do that to my grandkids, his kids, because I'm modeling that behavior. So that's when I realized that I had to do something different. What is that?
Yeah, hey, that's powerful, brother. I mean, we are the sum of our experiences, and our experiences start at day zero when we're born, and our parents, whatever they pour into us, whatever they teach us, like it or not, we carry it along with us for the whole of our lives, the sum of our lives. So it's whether or not you're going to use that is what's going to happen, and if you're going to teach that going forward, and you decided at that moment, at that time, to do something different. So is that when Intentional Dad was born? What happened after that moment? What was the next thing that you did after you let your son go? Apparently, what was the next thing that you did?
I started crying.
Yeah.
And I asked him for forgiveness. And I guess Intentional Dad was born then.
Yeah.
Right? I had to show up I had to show up in a different way. I had never thought about what to do. Right? And really, that's what intentionality is. Intentionality means you're paying attention. You're being methodical. You're being precise. You're being, I don't want to use the word to describe the word.
Right.
Right?
Intentional.
Intentional about what your movements are. Right? What the end result is. What you're looking to do. So I was born then. However, I didn't have the tools. So in the process of that, the world was coming to an end. It was COVID.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was during COVID. So I realized that, okay, I know I don't want to do that. So what I need to do? College educated man, the bros, we figure out solutions, right? We'll solve a problem. But I never looked inwards to solve a problem. I was always external, like, oh, what do I figure out? And I realized that I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the tools of emotional intelligence that I needed to self-regulate myself, to then be able to hold space for my son. Even at 4 years old, I didn't respect him enough to where I had a higher regard for his development than for obedience.
Yeah.
Right? As a kid, my parents had a higher regard for my obedience to listen and do what I say versus my ability to express myself. So that's when I realized that I didn't have that and I wasn't doing that for him. And it started there. So I started a conscious discipline perspective, just accepting some of that methodology. And really it was white people stuff when you think about it.
Right.
Right? Like only white people let their kids talk crazy. Only white people let their kids express themselves. As a minority, that was something that was just like not accepted in my house.
Not in our culture, right?
Hell
Not in
nah.
our culture.
Nah. However, it made sense because you were respecting a 4-year-old as a person. And then what really threw me for a loop was my little one was right behind me. He was months. I was like, well, I don't want to raise him that way. So I got to make the change.
Yeah.
And now as I see both of them, I see Julian, my youngest, I've never put my hands on him. And I literally see the difference between the two of them, which is crazy how trauma in the body keeps a score and the body remembers. So now the purpose and the mission of Intentional Dad and the Conscious Research Institute is to define fatherhood while raising consciousness one father at a time, right? And a dad is emotionally invested into his children, where a father, if you look up in the dictionary, a father just produces an heir. A dad is emotionally invested.
Yep.
So what I've thrown myself into and just understanding is that our kids' future is dependent on the emotional intelligence of their fathers.
Bingo. So now you bring in another aspect. One of the pillars. You basically outline some of the pillars of your program, emotional intelligence. We had a program today, and it was amazing. Of course, I cried, like I want to do when I am in that space. And one of the things we talked about was emotional intelligence. And there was a young man there who expressed himself so eloquently, and he did that naturally. That's not something that comes naturally to so many of us because of our upbringing, Caribbean or from the islands, Latino. Emotional intelligence is not something that is taught from the very beginning. So, some people have it naturally. My son has it. He's gifted in emotional intelligence, and I am not. I'm still working on that. So how do you bring that out in grown men who are set in their ways and have zero knowledge of what emotional intelligence? First off, describe what emotional intelligence is for those in the audience who do not know, who are watching this podcast. And then secondly, how do you get emotional intelligence, that concept, in so quickly into grown men?
So emotional intelligence on a super high level, there's 4 pillars of emotional intelligence. Just focus on the first one is your ability to self-regulate, your ability to manage your own emotions, right? That's really the biggest one. Everything after that is based off of that, right? So one's ability to manage your emotions. As a kid, we were told, I'll give you a reason to cry.
If you don't have
you
one.
were pushed to suppress your own emotions. You weren't allowed to feel your feelings. That takes me to your second question. How do we get men, grown men, us, or like we had some Army veterans or veterans today, How do you get them to tap into that? We hold space.
Right.
We hold space. We allow them to feel their feelings and not judge them. Us being vulnerable around them allows them to be vulnerable. Showing them, modeling the behavior of what it looks like to be emotionally intelligent helps other men, right? Because it's like the mob mentality, the herd mentality, right? We start getting crazy, people will follow us. You start being centered and grounded, somebody will follow also. Right? It's both. Same sides of the coin.
Definitely.
Did I answer your question?
Absolutely did. Absolutely hold space and give people the opportunity to feel those feelings, and then see where they come from and what they're doing to them. And I saw you do that today, and I knew that you were going to answer the question that way, and it mirrored a lot of what I do here in the office when we're doing our lifestyle modification counseling. And it's just, changing habits, recognizing barriers and triggers. I call them barriers and triggers. And
Right.
I heard you say the same words today in a different space. So it's amazing to see you work in a room with grown men, and we had younger men, young men in the room as well, and to be able to to allow them to work through their feelings and come and use their words to express some things that are very personal, and other things that they probably beliefs that they held for a very long time. And then I could see the light come on about so I commend you for being as skilled as you are in a short amount of time. To be able to pull that out of grown men is remarkable, right?
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I had to accept my purpose. I had to accept that. I had to embrace the fact that if I don't show up, there's light that doesn't get brightened, right? And there's a poem that I always think about. My playing small doesn't serve the world, right? Marianne Williamson, Our Deepest Fear. So I can't play small. I gotta show up. I show up for myself. I show up for my kids. I show up for my wife.
You showed up for me. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you showed up for your friends a lot, consistently. So now I want to know how you're going to show up for the community in this space, because what you're doing, I really don't see anybody else doing it, and it is absolutely needed. It's a service that is invaluable. I don't even know what the cost would, because in the end, you're building men with a different set of values and a different set of abilities to, one, rear their children, bring up, men with other emotional intelligence, which then grows bigger, other families with other set of skills, right? And breaking cycles is something that we need to do in our community on a lot of levels. But I believe from a decision-making standpoint that you could make a huge difference in the community. So I would love to know how Intentional Dad is going to next show up for the community. You've shown up for your friends, shown up for your family, shown up for yourself, your sons. How are you going to show up now? Because the community needs what you have to offer. How are we going to see Intentional Dad make its next impression?
That's a great question, and it pushes me to forward think. Right?
Right.
It pushes me to think bigger,
Right.
in my own goals and where I want to go. The vision, right? The vision is to empower men, right? Intentional Dad was created for me. I'm the dad that was trying to be intentional. I'm the dad that needed to be intentional. I'm the dad that realized, okay, I'm not gonna hit him, but I'm still angry. So I'll still have some hyperaggression or some microaggression, and I'll still do some shit that's still gonna cause damage in their psyche, right?
Right.
And realize that I'm not mad. It's my 5-year-old that's mad, little John, that's mad that this little kid got away with it and I didn't get away when I was 5.
Right.
Right, so how do you deal with that? How do you manage that? How do you work through that as a grown ass man when you as a 5-year-old were never allowed to? and you're actually taking it out on your seed because you don't know any other way to manage it.
Right.
Right. So where I'm going next is to be able to bring that to men.
All right.
We're able to bring that to somebody's husband, bring that to somebody's dad, bring that to the community and be able to do that. What does that look like? We have men's circles.
Right.
We've partnered with the Bros, partnered with Black Men Build.
Okay.
Looking for grants. We got a grant from DCF to be able to do that. I don't think that it should be a hard thing to do. Right? It's already hard enough for us to make a decision to want to be better and then not see the tools around there. Right? If you want to do better, or just like there's food disparities, right? Like there's food deserts in our cities, in our communities. You want to eat better, but there's no way to get there, right? So I want to be able to talk about mental health from Men's Health, and this is actually November's Men's Health Month, right? We talk about our physical bodies.
Mind, body, and soul.
Right.
Mind, body, and soul.
That part.
I love it.
So how do we take care of our mental so our external looks better, or our external represents what our internal is doing?
I love it.
So for the community, I need to show up more. I need to show up more. Bring back the sunrise meditations on Sunday mornings. Have some Hollywood circles. Create some intentional things in Hollywood, which I kind of ran from. But I need to.
Right.
I need to get into that again.
Well, this community, South Florida, we're doing well in many ways, but we're still struggling. And I think that what you have to offer could be a huge piece, and from the mind and soul part, it could be a very good thing for the men in this community to have access to what you have to offer. And we're definitely gonna help in any way we can and promote it. And tell us more about some of the what is a men's circle and what does that look like and how did that come about? Like, where did that idea come from? Tell us more.
Men's Circle is a safe space for men to be able to come together, judge-free, right? And men just talk about things that men issues are. There's no liquor, there's no women, there's just straight judge-free, real brotherhood.
Right.
Right. It's a safe space. I actually started going to men's circles through Black Men Build. They have men's circles in Broward and Dade County.
Okay. And
when I started going, I was like, oh, this is therapeutic.
It's great.
This is great. This is therapeutic for me. I get to sit around and deal with other people's problems and see their problems. And it's like, man, my shit don't even compare to some of the things some of these brothers are going through. Right? But then you learn something from them and they're learning something from you. It's like that sharpening of the swords.
Right.
So the essence of a men's circle is to be able to lift each other up, right? Lift as you're climbing. Be able to push yourself to the next evolution of you with your kinfolk, with men, with other kings. Right? So the men's circle, I think, is extremely therapeutic.
Right.
And it's so simple. You just got to be open. Got to be open-minded.
Love it. Love it.
And show up for yourself.
Today's men's circle was an exercise that I've done many times before, but an exercise that every time you do it, it just gets a little bit easier. But you find new things in it. We were talking about our goals, life goals, short-term goals, barriers to our goals, and how to get around them. Yeah. And to watch other men who I could tell had never done that before, and watch the evolution from the first minute to the close. It was amazing, man. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I learned something new about myself, of course. Okay. Your guidance through the men's circle was impeccable, as usual. As usual. And one of the things that I want to ask you about is, what are the things that you think helped you the most to become as proficient as you are at leading a men's circle from the moment that you went to one at Black Men's Build to now being able to lead one in your program now in such a short amount of time? Because pandemic was like, what, 2019, 2020. This is like less than 4 years. To be that good at what you do, what do you think? Because we need more people like you, right? Yeah. You know, you're going to have to find a way to multiply yourself, as the way I see it in this community, in this country, 100,000 times, right? Maybe not that many, but you know, what I'm saying is we're going to need other people to see what you're doing and try to, emulate that and do it. So what sort of things, exercises that you do you do some journaling? Do you do meditation? Who do you study? Like, how did you get so damn good at leading a men's circle and getting men to be not only vulnerable, but truthful in a setting where they may not know everybody in the circle and actually get something out of it?
That's a great question. Intentionality.
Okay.
Intentionality, right? Intentionality. That what you do not hate, you'll eventually tolerate. Malcolm X.
Right.
It's one of my favorite quotes. And what I realized was that I hated that version of me. Right? Which is weird for people to say. And when I realized it, well, this is how I got here. How can I hate myself? No, that just no longer serves me. So what's the new way I got to look at it? Who do I need to become for the direction that I want to go? Who am I? Who am I now? Who was I then? And who do I want to become? So when I realized that, and I look at different things in my life, like I've actually gained weight recently. So I haven't completely hated being fat.
Right.
So I'm still fat. I hated not being able to have self-control and lose my shit with my kids. So I stopped doing that.
Right.
Right. So it's a crazy thing because it's supposed to apply for all aspects of life, but it doesn't, because we're all imperfect, right? We're still working through our own things, our own internals. So you asked me a lot, so I'm going to come trying to handle that one by one, make sure I answer your question.
Right.
Really good question. So intentionality.
Right.
Right. Being intentional and focused on what I want. I write my goals in the morning, and I write my goals in the evening. And one of my goals that is always resonating with me is I choose to show up consistently and daily for my sons with love and patience. So if there's a minute that I want to be triggered, am I choosing to have love and patience? Right? And it just reminds me, like, I made that decision. Let's not do that. Right? Hold down. Then I think about some breathing, right? Just who just got triggered?
Right.
Who just got triggered? Is it 43-year-old John that's an adult? Or is it the 7-year-old John that was not allowed to do that, and now he sees his 9-year-old son do it, and who's really upset? Right? So I just bring myself to reality, and I realize that if I'm being intentional and present in the moment, who gives a shit? That 7-year-old 40 years ago, 35 years ago, doesn't even matter right now, right? So for me, it's being where my feet are at. This is where I'm at. This is the moment. Am I going to operate this moment from that experience or the anxiety of the future, right? Like, neither of them are here, right? So being where my feet are at really helped me a lot with that, and not allow myself to get distracted by anything else. So that's a technique. Remembering what my goals are. Where am I going? And where I'm going is guiding me who I am, right? You asked what I do. I remember that my thoughts are my words are my actions, and my actions are my legacy. My actions become what I do, or what people know me for. Right? People know you for showing up. You show up, right? And the last thing is my self-talk. I love myself. Something I learned from you, actually. And the love and pursuit of the truth.
Love and pursuit of the truth.
Right. I'm not perfect, but I am perfect right now. I am who I am right this minute. I gotta love myself for who that is.
Yeah.
And I remember that my negative self-talk is not really me. It's everything else around me that was impressed onto me. And I'm not those feelings, I'm not those thoughts, and I'm not those emotions. It's like, might get a little weird for you here, but it's the cars. We got cars in the parking lot. We're the ones that go in the car and drive them. Right? It's our spirits, our souls, however you want to look at it, that are driving these vessels. We're not those.
Yeah, we're not the car.
We're not the car. This is just part of the experience, right?
Yeah.
So how do we treat it? How do we take care of it? Maybe this is what we need to look like, right? This is the vessel that's going to take us to do the work that we need to do.
Right.
But I'm not any of those things. So who's really getting triggered and what's really getting triggered? Is it your brain, your spirit, your body? What is it? So when I sit back and I think about that, I just check myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, yeah.
Definitely.
Can I answer your questions?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that answer. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Many of the skills that you have in your space, which is basically allowing people, well, first of all, befriending people super, super quickly and getting them to be as vulnerable as they want to be with you in that time, which then in that time you can allow them to come to where they need to be in as a man, as a dad. Of course, you know, in your space, I'm sure you want to do that as quickly as possible. You don't want to push it, but you do want to get them there so they can get the help that they need and move on and move on with their family. And I do something very similar in the office here. It's a skill that, you know, we're lucky to have. That we can befriend people, super genuine. I can see how genuine you are when you're talking to people, and people feel that. So then they open up their vulnerability. Where do you think that you get that ability to do that where a lot of people can't? It's not, you know, you may feel like it's natural because it's natural to you, or is, you know, I want to know, do you know when you realized you had that skill to do that and use that in this space? Because believe it or not, you got that skill.
Okay.
You may not believe it, but you do.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I received that. I've always prided myself in being authentic, right? Just always, my whole life. I was always authentic. This is who I am, right? What I've realized was that I was negating my own power, in a sense. I wasn't willing or able to use it or to accept it.
Okay.
And when we don't use our gifts, it starts hurting, right? And the pain is not ours, is what we didn't do. So I remember I had a ceremony with some medicine, some sacred medicine, and I spent 3 hours crying. Literally 3 hours, like boo-hoo, like I was 3 years old, just crying. And then I spent another 4 hours laughing my ass off, crying and laughing. The first 3 hours was because of the pain that I was causing because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And then the following hours was because I knew what to do. Right? So I spent 7 hours crying.
Right.
And it was mind-blowing because all I had to do was just be myself. Right? So all I had to do was flip. Right? I have this chipped tooth that I don't fix because it's a reminder of my life, right? Mm-hmm. I have a stab wound on my chest because it's a reminder of my life. Mm-hmm. And these both I have because of fights that I got into because of my friends. Not because of me, but because I was that I wish a motherfucker would, right? So the flip side of that is the authentic of I'm vulnerable, I'm open, right? I don't show up, it's a dick fight anymore. The men operate off of that. Right? So if I could walk in the room and be the baddest motherfucker in the room, I can also walk in the room and be the humblest man in the room.
Bingo.
So when I accepted that, I didn't have to do anything different. I just literally had to be myself. And I think that's what gives me the ability to do that. Because I'm not threatening. I could walk out if I need to.
Right.
I can walk out any room I put myself in, but I also know that I don't need to go in there fighting.
Yeah, I think that's a major part of it, right? Because yeah, you are dealing with, men who have been hurt people, right? So you're dealing with men who have been hurt, and that puts them in a defensive spot from the begin. And the same thing when people, patients come in here, they are feeling bad, they're feeling hurt, or they're feeling people have led them astray, other doctors or other people in the medical space. So when patients come in to the office, they also have that same defense mechanism. The barriers are, the defense mechanism is not a barrier trigger, but they do have their defenses up. So it doesn't serve me to take too long to get to their problems. They have a lot of reasons why their defenses are up, but my style is such that similar to yours, obviously different spaces, to get them to be honest with me, to be vulnerable with me, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's another thing I was watching you do, and I was like, wow, there's such similarities between the way your style is, and it's so useful to not just you, but also to the people in the room. And I use some of that, same authenticity, and look people in the eye, let them know that they're safe, let them know that they, what's said here in this space is a safe space, and it's not going to be left and talked about, and that we're here to help, absolutely here to help. So I also don't really realize where I learned the skill. I probably picked it up, just from being, I guess, I know where I got it from. The moment I realized that, like you said, I need to be me and not put on airs and be someone else, right, became an instant, great skill for me. Great, and it's useful. It's useful to help people along, to not to have 4 or 5 or 6 meetings to build that trust. Sometimes it takes more than one meeting, great. Yeah. But for you to be able to do that in one men's circle, for multiple individuals at once, I've never done that, right? I've never had, obviously doctors don't see 5 people at once. And, we talk about, HIPAA type stuff in one space. Granted, we're not talking about that, but we are talking about some sensitive stuff. And for a man to be able to, a hurt man with his defenses up, not knowing what to expect in this room, maybe having only met you briefly at the invitation, to be able to do that is super remarkable, man. I don't know if you really understand how hard that is, but it is. So it brings me back to, how are you going to be able to grow this, scale this, as we say in business, so that multiple people can do what you do the way you do it? I want to know, how are you going to make more Castros? Because we need more Castros.
So I'm going to push back on that.
Okay.
There's only one Castro.
Understood.
And there's only one John Alexander Ramirez.
Yeah.
Right? So I can only be myself because everyone else is taken. So it's not about duplicating John. It's allowing people the ability to have the resilience within themselves, the confidence to be their authentic self, so they can shine their light unapologetically in their community, wherever they go.
Totally understood, bro. Totally, not to cut you off, but totally understood. I understand that you're a unique individual. I'm a unique individual. I don't expect, even my son or anyone else to be just like me and do it the way I do it. But I also understand that what I do here has to live beyond me.
Yeah.
Right? So I have to leave a certain legacy, not only just the example, but also, I know before it's all said and done, I want to train multiple doctors to have the bedside manner I have, the ability to, elicit information quickly, analyze the information, and express complicated medical information in a way that they understand it. Not to speak to people like they're dumb, but to relate to them, right? So I would, what I want to know is, do you have anybody in training? Who else is going to be on this road with you? Because the need is so great, my brother. The need is great.
So I think here's my pushback.
Okay.
Is I'm afraid to grow that way.
All right.
And that's, you asked me how this grows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's where there's some fear for me. Right? There's some, where am I holding back at?
Mm-hmm.
And I've never heard it like you said it. Like we almost take it for granted because we do it and it's like, okay, whatever. And you're pushing me to expand myself. And I appreciate that. I really do, friend. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not coming from a place of just, pushing you, really. I'll be honest with you, man. We're struggling out here, man. There's a lot of, and that's why I work the way I work, because I know, someday I'm not gonna be able to do it, or I'm not gonna be here.
Yeah.
And I do wanna, I'm not there yet. Obviously, this office is not, we have things that we're doing, and I'm putting it together. But once it's there, I want it to be a model, and I'm also going to show multiple other young doctors, minority doctors, how to build something like this in the communities all over the country, right?
Yeah.
That's been my model the whole time. So that's why I'm asking you, do you have a similar outlook for Intentional Dad, or does Intentional Dad go away when John Ramirez goes away?
No.
Okay.
So the original model
Mm-hmm.
of Intentional Dad was built behind me as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, having my own business, growing my own business, raising my sons to think for themselves, not be told what to think, not to go through the traditional school. And that's where the Concierge Research Institute came from, is to be able to teach dads how to raise and teach their own kids. So the model, you're right, it's not that. The model is to empower fathers to then be able to replicate themselves in their children. Right? So my job, my tools, actually one of my daily goals that I write is that Intentional Dad is the world's largest educational platform for dads for that exact same reason. And so I guess the expansion-wise, business-wise, that is it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is empowering fathers to have the tools of resiliency so that they can model that behavior for their sons.
Understood.
Right? Be the fathers, be the adults that they needed. That's how we show up.
Okay.
All I did today was be the adult that I needed if I'm in that scenario.
All right. So now I think I have a better understanding of how this thing, Intentional Dad, is going to grow beyond you. So it's not a teacher-student model. It's a teacher-student becomes the teacher to the next student, teacher, father to son becomes the next father.
Yeah.
So the intentional part is, yes, being intentional, but also intentional to treat the son, to be a good dad, to turn around to be a good dad for the next son.
Right.
That is, that's ingenious. That's ingenious. And and also again, mirrors a lot what I like to do here, right? I have 10 steps to doing lifestyle modification, lifestyle changes, which I believe is the number one thing that, you have your hands, I say hands on the levers of your health before I have to force some sort of medication on you. You got the 90%, the things that your nutrition, your exercise, your mental health, right?
Yeah.
And making better decisions, informed decisions. So number 10 is to go back and teach everything you've learned in your lifestyle modification journey, your lifestyle change journey, with 10 steps, 1 through 10. And number 10 is specifically to go back and teach it to someone else. So that's important to, many people gatekeep a lot of things, right?
Right.
And it's beautiful to know that, this beautiful thing that you're building, you're not trying to get, like, they don't have to come back to you. You're purposefully wanting dads to just go off in the world and be a great dad, teach your son to be a great dad. So he, and then we're just multiplying like that. That is, I love it. If that's the way, if I'm understanding it correctly.
You are. It's each one teach one.
Yeah.
Right? You lift as you climb. A dad has, like, my son has some of the brothers, my nephews, right? He's got friends that don't have dads. I'm the by proxy or how I show up for them.
Right. A lot of my questions for the expansion and getting more dads exposed to this, I'm be honest with you, selfish. A lot of it is selfish. I'm lucky to have you as a friend and as a confidant, someone I can, call and you call me. Sometimes you're super busy, but we always end up connecting. But I think, again, to be able to have someone like you in every city, every major city, or program like you in every major city, or access. It could be on, internet, like, it's 2024. I don't know. It's your business and your business model, and it's your baby. But I think that you have a lot to offer our community. When I say our community, I'm not just talking about South Florida or Hollywood. Minority community, Caribbean community, Central and South American, we share a lot of the same struggles economically, socially, socioeconomics, all that stuff. A lot of our struggles are the same. So I think that, I'm just being selfish. I think we need you. So I just probing to see if there is any other plan, if there's some, take over the world type plan, because you could absolutely, there's such a need for what you're doing that I think it could catch fire. And, grant money, if you got some grant money out there, you need to throw it at this man right here, because I think this is something that the community sorely, sorely needs.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. That's part of my life's purpose, is as I heal myself, I allow others to heal because of that. Right?
Okay.
And that is the journey. Right? That's not the end result.
Right.
The end result is our kids. Is
Okay.
how they move and what happens after that. Right. So yeah, I'm working on that. I'm looking on that.
I implore you. Let me give you the opportunity to let my favorite question to end off all my podcasts.
Okay.
When it's all said and done, when our maker, your maker takes you, what would you like when you can no longer speak for yourself? And what would you like your legacy? What would you like them to say about you and Intentional Dad, the company and the services and everything that you've done? What would you like to be said, and how would you like what you've done to be known in this community and beyond?
That God's light shined through me and gave them their light.
Love it. Love it. All right, my brother. Please tell the folks how they can at least get a little bit of what the South Florida community, because we're holding them to South Florida right now, because we're not letting them go nowhere else, because it is what it is. He's here with us. So South Florida, how could South Florida get in touch with Intentional Dads? How can dads who are wanting to be better and be present for their kids or sons, how can they get in touch with Intentional Dad and with you?
Right. So the Conscience Research Institute, that's one of my nonprofits. That is the baby. That is the organization that we're throwing this through. Also, I'm the director or executive director of TMCS Community Cares. Our handle, TMCS Community Cares. Instagram, Castro, the Intentional Dad.
Yeah.
Instagram, double underscore. Facebook, website, phone number.
Right.
All of that, we can drop that.
We're going to drop all of that in the description description of the podcast.
I host circles. First, every Monday in South Florida, there's a circle hosted by Black Men Build. It's a partnership that we have with them. I'm a part of Black Men Build. Great organization.
Mm-hmm.
They, Men and Brothers is about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So every first and third Dade County in the Freedom Lab in Miami, second and fourth in Broward up in Atlanta, in Atlantic Boulevard.
Great.
We can drop that information.
All that information, I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the description, because I do think that there are men that are out here in South Florida that need your services, have been looking for it, didn't know existed. I want them to be able to connect with you. And I also want your information out there to the world, because I know there's some money out there. Some people, somebody's going to see this
so we got coming
and get some money.
My apologies.
Go ahead.
We have Miami Give Day here in the near future. Next about 10 days, that's going to be Miami Give Day. And then also on Tuesday nights, Fatherhood Talks. That's a YouTube channel that every Tuesday night is led by one of the bros, Dr. Brother Rod Osborne. And it's just dads that jump on and just have the conversation virtually. Right?
Yeah.
So the men's circles in private in circles, in the physical realm, and then we also have those circles on the Zoom world.
I love it.
So there's somebody for you to talk to. Right? There's no reason not to reach out to somebody. There's no reason to be vulnerable and be open to talking to somebody. And if somebody judges you when you reach out to them, they ain't give a shit about you in the first place.
That's not the right place to be.
No. Find somebody that will talk to you and listen to you. Not even talk to you, just sit there in silence while you're going through it.
Yeah.
That's the sign of a friend. just like today, actually.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. So, yeah, I mean, this is my brother. This is John Ramirez, man. He's got Intentional Dad here in South Florida. We're super lucky to have him. I'm lucky to have him as a friend. Here we're doing, something similar with our lifestyle modifications, and we're showing people how to make better decisions in their healthcare, and he's showing men how to make better decisions in being a dad. All services that we need got to be there for mind, body, and soul. I'm mostly treating the body. I try to touch on the mind and soul, but he's doing an amazing job here in South Florida for the mind and the soul. So yes, there's a lot of alignment here. So again, this is Healthy Exchanges with me, Dr. G, giving you some more information in South Florida and what we have to offer, all the beautiful services we have to offer. Looking for you to stay healthy, and I will see you soon.